Hey folks, this is Vince with Ads Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly check out 5-Minute Dungeon. Now before we actually begin, it's worth noting that what you're about to see are prototype components. The game is coming to Kickstarter on November 1st, 2016, so everything that you're about to see here is subject to change. For the most part, the gameplay is solid and done, but the artwork is not. It actually says right on the box here, pre-release edition, artwork not final. And honestly, the artwork is pretty damn good, I gotta say. So I'm happy with this. I really am. Yes, it's not greatly put together, but again, this is a prototype copy. Anyway, here's a look at the box insert. Again, I don't know if this is what players are actually going to get, or supporters of the game will get whenever they actually, contribute to the Kickstarter campaign, or should they buy a retail copy in the future. But that's what mine looks like. You've got, basically, what you've got going on here, this is a 5-minute dungeon crawl. Players choose a boss. They seed a door deck full of monsters and obstacles and people, different things like that, along with some challenge cards. They're going to mix those in as well, and they're going to try and defeat all of those cards in order to get to the boss. And if they can get to the boss and defeat him by playing cards of the matching symbols, they win, but they have to do that in under 5 minutes. Alright, and that's basically the gist of it. At the beginning of the game, players will choose one character. There's 10 in the game. There's 5 player boards here, but they're double-sided. So you've got Sorceress and then a Wizard, and that basically allows the player here to get the blue deck here. And then the player who chooses the Paladin or the Valkyrie will get the yellow deck. The player that gets the or chooses the Barbarian or the Gladiator will get the red deck, and so on and so forth. And each character has a unique ability to them. Like this Trick Shot, for example, discard 3 cards to defeat a person. The Huntress, on the other hand, discard 3 cards to choose another player to draw 4 cards. Ninja, discard 3 cards to defeat an obstacle. Thief, discard 3 cards to draw 5 cards. So if you run into a bind, you can use a special ability and hope it gets you over whatever obstacle you're facing. Okay, so let's just quickly set up here. There's 5 bosses in the game. Players start with boss number 1 and work their way up to boss number 5. Here's boss number 4, Freaking Dragon, a Grime Reaper, boss number 2, Dungeon Masters, boss number 5 here. Great artwork, by the way, I love that. And Zola the Gorgon, boss number 3, and you can see they get progressively harder. There's a number on the very bottom right hand corner here that tells you how many of these door cards that you're going to add to the dungeon, and players have to defeat those before they get to the boss. Alright, so let's just quickly set up. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 3-player game. In a 2-player game, players have to take 2 of these decks here, shuffle them together to form one large deck, and that goes for each of the 2 players. So one player might have the red and blue deck, another player might have the green and purple deck. You could try controlling 2 different player boards, 2 different decks that way, and thus 2 different hands. I haven't tried that, but it's something to consider. I'm not a rule Nazi, so if that works for you, go for it. And that'll give you more access to the various abilities. Because one player might have a Thief and have a purple deck, but they also have a green deck shuffled in. It's not very thematic, in my opinion, anyway. So, having both a purple and a green player board for one player, and they control both decks, I think that would be more thematic. But that might break the game because there's 2 abilities there that players can use. Anyway, and let's just set up real quick. We could do a Barbarian, sure. Move these cards out of the way real quick. Alright. Move the instruction manual out of the way as well. By the way, the instruction manual is pretty good too. The game also comes with a little note here. It's a 5-minute timer on your iOS or Android device. It's just a free app that you can download, 5minutedungeon.com/timer. Or /timer. I always get the 2 confused. Anyway, yeah, it's a free timer, but you don't have to use the timer on your phone. You could use the clock that comes on your phone. Every phone usually comes with some type of clock. You can just set it for 5 minutes. And another cool thing is the game is flexible. So let's say you've got a medical condition or something, or you can't see very well, or you're not very quick to play. Just because you might have arthritis in your hands, whatever, you can set it to 7 minutes, despite what the box says, or 8 minutes. Give yourself some leeway. You can call it an easy mode. Every RPG video game that I've ever played had some type of difficulty slider, or most of them did, and you could set this to easy by increasing the time limit from 5 minutes to, say, 8 minutes. So that's another thing to consider. So yeah, I'm not a rule Nazi. I'm all about having fun. Anyway, here's the instruction manual. It's about 20 pages, 23, but it's very easy, despite the fact there are a lot of pages. In fact, the back of the manual is more for what each of the different components are, what they do, the different cards that you'll find in each of these decks. That's another cool thing about this game. is that each of these decks have unique action cards to them. Magic Bomb in this blue deck, for example, that's like your mage class, whatever. Fireball, Cancel, and then you've got other cards here. Again, you're going to play these cards in order to defeat the monsters that are in these decks. And then the green one, on the other hand, has things like Healing Herbs. That's one thing. If you run out of cards in your hand and in your deck, you're out of the game. Unless someone plays a Healing Herb, choose a player to draw 4 cards from the top of their discard pile. So you can cycle cards back into a player's inventory, so to speak, by playing healing cards. So there's that. There's also wild cards. Again, each deck is different, and the back of the manual will tell you, what comes in each. But anyway, let's go ahead and set up the deck real quick. Whenever you choose a monster, again, there's a little number here. You want to deal that many cards. I'm just going to eyeball it just for the sake of time. I'm going to say that's 20, sure. And you also shuffle in 2 cards per player. These are challenge cards. These are a bit tougher to defeat. But yeah, you shuffle so many in based on the number of people playing. I'm just going to, again, I'm not going to count. I'm just going to, for example purposes, just throw them like this. We're not going to play a full game. We're just going to do that. Okay. So I'm going to put the monster deck up here, or the door deck as it's called. And since we're playing a 3-player game, let's grab blue real quick. There we go. And then red receives this one, draw pile. Blue receives this one, draw pile. Green receives this one. The other ones are not used. Again, in a 2-player game, one player would pick a board and then shuffle 2 decks together to form one large deck, and each player would do that. But we have 3 players, so we don't have to do that. The rest of the challenge cards, door decks, placed off to the side, and then you set your timer for 5 minutes, and then whenever you draw this first card, you're ready to go. So we've got this invisible wall, for example. It's an obstacle. Players need to play 2 of these blue cards in order to defeat it. Or if they have a special action card or special ability that destroys an obstacle, like this teleport, discard 3 cards to defeat an obstacle. So if players don't have any blue cards among them and they're stuck, this sorceress here can play this special ability, discard 3 cards, defeat this obstacle automatically. And by the way, whenever you play cards, you automatically draw back up to your hand limit. Speaking of hand limit, that's one thing I forgot to do before setting up before actually starting the game. Each player has a hand limit, and there's a little chart in here. There we go. Number of players, 5 cards, 3 players, 4 cards, 4 or 5 players, 3 players, 4 cards, 4 or 5 players, 3 cards. So your hand limit's a little bit bigger depending on the number of people playing the game. So in this case, everyone gets 4 cards. I'm just going to quickly draw 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. This should have been done before the timer started, by the way, just FYI. Again, I'm just sort of rushing here, giving you a brief overview. So again, yeah, you're going to draw the first card, start the timer, players look at their hands and try and contribute cards to defeat it. The warrior here, or the barbarian rather, has this enrage. Choose 2 players to draw 3 cards each. So that you can do that. You can also play this blue card to contribute to that, and he's going to draw up immediately up to his hand limit. There's a hybrid card here. This serves as a red and a yellow. And let's take a look at green and see what he has. There are no player turns in this game, so you're just going to throw cards out there, coordinate. You have to coordinate quickly, though. You can't sit there talking for 5 minutes because you'll lose. But you want to coordinate with other players, and throw cards down whenever you do that. Here's a wild card, counts as any resource. So they might want to hold on to this one, though, assuming blue doesn't have anything. Okay, blue has this blue one, so he could do that. And the wild card could be used for something else. He's going to draw back up to 4. And there you go. This first is defeated. That's all done. Now, whenever you use cards, either these colored cards or an action card to defeat these monsters, they are permanently removed from the game. So you're probably wondering, okay, so what's up with the discard piles? Why do players have discard piles? Whenever you use your special ability or through some type of other special event, via action cards, that's when they are played face up into this discard pile. And again, those heal cards that I showed you earlier, you can actually shuffle cards back into your main deck or get cards back from your discard pile whenever they are played. So, but yeah, anytime you play cards that contribute toward defeating a monster via action or colored cards, they are removed from the game. So I'm just going to put these off to the side for right now. And then you're going to draw the next card and try and defeat that. And players are going to try and get through this entire deck before the 5 minutes is expired. Again, this shows you as a monster here. So if anyone has, Slay, discard 3 cards to defeat a monster. So if no one has a red and a green card, combined, then the barbarian could discard 3 cards from their hand in order to get rid of that. But again, the more cards they play like that, the more their deck shuffles down and they don't have as many resources to draw from. So using a lot of special abilities will deplete you pretty quickly. But yeah, players will try and get through this entire deck before the time limit expires. and then they'll try and defeat the boss. And again, to defeat the boss, players need to play cards of the matching symbols on the board. And again, if they do that before the time limit expires, they win. If they don't, they lose. And that's basically the gist of 5-Minute Dungeon. Again, I really like this. The artwork isn't final, yes, but it's still very pretty. I mean, if you told me that the artwork wasn't final, I wouldn't have believed you, because it's very colorful, very pretty. I like the fact that each deck has its own unique abilities via action cards, like fireballs, and then the Barbarian has that Rage card, and yeah, Enrage. There's some other ones in here too, I'm sure. Yeah, Mighty Leap, defeat an obstacle. So yeah, you can coordinate before the game begins. Okay, I'm going to take this class because it has the heal card. I'm going to take this class because it's great for defeating this or that, or whatever the case may be. So you can sort of customize your experience a bit. And like I said, in a 2-player game, feel free to experiment. You know, instead of having 2 decks that are shuffled together to form 1 deck for each player, try controlling 2 different boards, 2 different decks, and 2 different hands, and see if that works for you. Might be a little bit more difficult, but it's worth trying just to see if it works. It might break the game, I don't know. But hey, again, if you have fun with it, then go for it. It's a game. You're meant to have fun. Not to be a rule Nazi and be miserable. So yeah, it's awesome game. Really like it. Again, it's going to be on Kickstarter November 1st, 2016, and about 2 or 3 weeks as of the date of this recording. So go check it out. I'll have a link in the below description for you. I also have a written preview out there. It goes into more detail. www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. There's also a link in the below description for you. So yeah, that is 5-Minute Dungeon. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.